Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I'm joined here, as always, by the man who is ready for a very spooky episode, at least if you're on the East Coast where it is officially Halloween. Kyle, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, and listen, we got to give ourselves some credit here. We're red hot, baby.
We just had one missed pick each this week, so a good week for us.
Yeah, 11-3 of the last 2 weeks for myself. I'm giving myself credit there.
Nicely done.
Still somehow down 4 points. Unbelievable. I got to cool you off, though.
I mean, I do have to say, though, the all-time, we'll get to it, but you picking the Dolphins, locking them up at 3.5 points, them winning by 4. I mean, that was a nail biter.
It was never a doubt. Never.
Okay. Dan Campbell slipping, not even covering. Again, we'll get into all of that. A lot of exciting football. Kyle, how's it going?
Everything's going good. Things felt good today. Got some W's. I like that. My fantasy team's the only thing that's kind of bringing me down, but overall, pretty good. How are you doing?
Oh, my fantasy teams. I have the second most points in my league, and I'm about to go 3-5. It's been a nightmare.
My season's been a complete disaster. I've given up.
Yeah, so. it happens. Fantasy's top. Don't look to us for fantasy advice. Look to us for, I don't know, entertainment.
A few laughs.
Yeah, we do our best here. Let's talk about, speaking of doing their best, I think that's fair to say what the Packers did, right? They did their best.
Yeah, you didn't even get the score right. It was 27-17, not 14.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah. So, listen, I think the interesting thing about this game, I know they're down a few receivers. Obviously, Lazard being out, I feel like Lazard and Cobb being out feels like it's almost like missing like Harrison and who's the other Reggie Wayne for the mid 2000s Colts almost for this team.
Yeah,
like that's almost the comparison. That's how impactful these guys are. That being said, I think the problem with this Packers team, and it's not like a new problem, we've talked about it multiple weeks. They ran the ball well. I think they played fair. Like, it wasn't great defensively still. They gave up a lot of rushing yards, obviously. But I think it was an okay defensive game based on what we've seen from this team this season. And they still look kind of outclassed. Like, this felt like a different tier of team than the Packers, despite the Packers, I think, having a kind of complete game. So, is that just telling us that the Packers are probably a tier 3 team?
They're certainly not a tier 1 team. I mean, This is honestly, I thought it was kind of embarrassing by the Packers a little bit in this one. I thought that they're having guys get kicked out of the game for, that Quay Walker thing was, let's talk about that. What was that? What happened there? That was just one of the most baffling things I've ever seen. Like, listen, I get it. You're losing. You had high expectations. It's your first year in the league. Tempers flare and you do something stupid. Like, it didn't even seem like there was any reason to push the guy. That was just a very baffling thing.
Yeah, it was definitely a poor decision on his part, and hopefully, young guy, he learns from it and gets better. But it was definitely a mind-boggling decision, and they're still in the game at that point. It's the first half, like and it's a 1 touchdown difference. You can't be getting kicked out of the game in a big moment like that.
Yeah, I totally did not get that. And right, they had some injuries as well. But then, and even, I also have to say, this is maybe something no one cares about, but like the Robert Tonyan offensive pass interference was offensive pass interference. Like that was like, he pushed the corners allowed to create contact within 1 yard. He disengages after 1 yard and then gets pushed to the ground. Like that's offensive pass interference. You're allowed to yell at the ref if you want to, but like, that being said, I think some Packers fans are going to take away and say, hey, we got some stuff going in the fourth quarter. And that's true. They did. So maybe that's what you sort of hang your hat on.
You're able to create a couple turnovers. I still think you could take away positives from this game, even if it's not perfect. I think there's things that you could say this is a step in the right direction. That being said, they're 3-5 right now. And I mean, do you think that do you think this team could still catch Minnesota?
No. I mean, I guess could, sure, but like, am I thinking it as a realistic possibility? No.
Yeah, because I mean, they basically have to make up 4 games in the last. How many games are even left? 9. 4 of the last 9 games, basically. That just seems.
And they only played them once.
Yeah, it seems like an impossible task at that point.
Yeah, let's have a great overlap 618 in the chat. After another week of losing and much deliberation, I've decided to return to the monastery. Sorry, overlap. Please, gamble responsibly.
Yeah, what's going on here? What are you losing on? We give you all these great picks this week, and then you're still saying you lose.
Well, he said he did. I think he did say he was going to fade you last week. So this is the issue.
Oh yeah, so he fades me, and then I get everything right.
Yeah,
Listen,
that's just how it goes. I feel like.
I'm on a heater. That's all that matters.
Yes. The Packers still here as a again really got off to a slow start. The defense really, I think kind of the thing is Josh Allen tried to get him back in this game in the fourth quarter. I mean, he was doing
Yeah.
everything quite frankly, Josh Allen was really not good in this game. And the Bills
Yeah.
still handedly beat a team that we thought would be a championship contender going into the season. Kind of just goes to show what kind of team this Bills team is.
Well, did you ever think in a scenario where Josh Allen might be the worst offensive player on the team, they still win the game by 10?
Right.
Like, I mean, you look at across the board, it's like guys like James Cook with the big touchdown catch. Devin Singletary was nice on the ground. Stephon Diggs he's been one of the best receivers in football this season. He's been unreal. I still think this team needs more consistent production out of Gabe Davis. I think that's the one thing. Like, I still think it's the best team in football. But I think what's holding it back from potentially being an all-time team or like the surefire bet for the Super Bowl right now is those secondary options need to be more consistent. And I think that's the thing we've been waiting for because I think Davis has the talent to be that clear-cut number 2 guy. We just need to see it more consistently. This wasn't his best game in this one. He had, I think, one big catch at the end of it, but that was really it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I also had a thought too of like, man, you look at this Bills team. What's their biggest concern? Their secondary options. The Packers would kill for a Gabe Davis. I mean, that would just make their team like that just kind of goes to show where these two teams are at. One of the things I love about what the Bills do is like there was one series where Josh Allen first down doesn't get it. Second down doesn't get anything. Third down now gets the first down. And it's just like that's what you want to do. Give your quarterback 3 tries to get the first down sometimes. It just makes things so much. I feel like teams overthink this. We got to make the throws easier on the quarterback. Well, sometimes giving your quarterback more options is the way to make it easier. And the Bills will do that. They ran the ball really effectively in this one as well. Great stuff from the Bills.
Yeah. And I mean, as we've seen this Allen ascension the last couple of years, a lot of it has been giving him more chances to make decisions and make big time plays. And he's, for the most part, been able to step up to the plate. I think in the second half of this game, he'd won a few throws back. But at the same time, I thought, he put them in the position to be up double digits in this game too.
Yeah, absolutely. It is like he's gonna strike out, but he's gonna hit a lot of home runs as well. So yeah, I mean, kind of again, the Packers are the Packers and the Bills are the Bills. And just, hey, Packers covered.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the big thing is, did we learn anything new about either of these teams? I don't feel like we really did. I felt like this is kind of like, I think the one thing is maybe the Packers have a little bit more fight in them because I thought this could be a bigger route than what it was.
Well, the running game for the Packers was fantastic, and that's maybe the one thing you take away. And they play the Lions next week, which should be a get-right game for their offense. That's one day. I think that's when we're going to really learn about who this Packers team is.
Yeah, I think I agree.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about the game of the week. 2 division rivals fighting it out to see who would lead the division when it was all said and done. The Panthers snatching defeat from the jaws of victory against Atlanta in a 37-34 instant classic. One of the stupidest games of football ever played. One of the best games of football ever played. I had a blast watching this game.
Yeah, this was chaotic, but in a good way. I got to be honest. For the first half of this game, I forgot this was on the Sunday schedule. I completely forgot this game was on. I was locked into a bunch of different games, and all of a sudden on my red zone feed, it's like, oh, Panthers and Falcons are on. And then one of the games I had on turned into a blowout thanks to the Raiders no showing. So I flip over to this one because I'm like, okay, this is competitive. And boy, am I lucky that I flipped into the second half of this game because this was unbelievable. I mean, the back and forth action to this stuff. I mean, PJ Walker had one of the best throws I've ever seen in my life. That throw to DJ Moore, that should have been the winning touchdown until DJ Moore takes his helmet off on the field. That was one of the best throws I've ever seen. And I think Next Gen said it was like the longest throw they've ever recorded. Like, it was unbelievable that it came down to that point. Just an insane game. And then, of course, Mariota throws the interception. Panthers look like they have a chance to win it. Eddie Pinheiro has a rough few minutes, and then it goes down to Younghoe Koo hitting the winner. Unbelievable action, unbelievable stuff.
Yeah, we should probably set it up for those who did not catch the ending of this game. It was the Panthers get as you alluded to, this incredible throw from PJ Walker on a great route by DJ Moore to get a great catch by DJ Moore, getting the touchdown when they were down 6 to tie the game. They go for the extra point to win the game, but wait, there was a flag before it. DJ Moore took his helmet off in celebration, pushed him back 15 yards. It was Eddie Pinheiro who missed the extra point. Then on a 48-yard extra point, would also miss a 33-yarder in overtime. So, yeah. And then, like I said, Mariota threw an interception, but then eventually led the game-winning drive. Just, hey, kickers matter.
Look, so I want to go back to this real quick because I'm seeing I've seen a bunch of things of like NFL refs stink because the easiest trope to have in social media history is to hate referees.
Absolutely.
Hating referees is the easiest trope to have because everyone's going to agree with you. No one's like, you know what? I think refs are cool.
Right.
There is no other side to this. But like, I think you can debate the nuances for some like roughing the passer calls, pass interference, and say, you know what? I disagree with that. I think it's a bad call. The NFL rule is pretty clear cut that you cannot take your helmet off on the field of play. Like, you cannot take your helmet off at all. Like, that's the whole point, unless you are on the sideline on your bench. Like, that's the one rule that like is pretty clear cut. And then people are like, oh, the refs stink because DJ Moore took his helmet off. Listen, maybe the rule does suck, but it's not the ref's fault for saying, hey, you took your helmet off when you're not allowed to take your helmet off. There's a flag. And then not to mention your kicker also has 2 chances to win this game, and he misses both field goals. In a dome, he should make at least one of them. So blaming the refs for this game, I think, is ridiculous.
No, the Panthers only have themselves to blame for this loss. Absolutely. As for I don't know. I feel like it logically makes sense to make sure everyone keeps their helmet on. Just like that feels like it should be a rule. Maybe you could argue whether it should be 15 yards or not, but like that feels like that logically follows. I typically hate all of these taunting penalties or these obsessive celebration penalties. I'm a believer in like let the emotions happen. Don't try to tarnish that. But you could still celebrate with a helmet on. So I don't know. It was you're right. It was a boneheaded decision by DJ Moore. He just got lost in the moment of making that great play. And then, still, Pinheiro has to make those kicks, though.
Yeah, even if you say the 48-yarder is tough, I think, you have to hit the 33-yarder at the end there in overtime.
Yeah, I completely agree. Incredible. Who's winning the NFC South? I think it's like a 30%, 33% chance for all 3 of the teams that have a legitimate chance.
I'm still gonna pick the Bucs. I don't know. I'm gonna pick them until they give me unless one of these teams actually gives me a reason not to pick the Bucs. I think I'm just gonna pick the Buccaneers' talent, even though they look terrible right now. I think I'm just gonna pick them. That's still the best defense in the division. Falcons are frisky, but I just don't think the talent level's there to match them. And then the Saints. On the right night, they're going to look awesome, and it seems like on the wrong day, they're going to look horrible. So I don't really know what to think of that team.
Yeah, I did have a bit of these are the teams that are battling out for in our division. How are we letting these teams decide it? What are we doing here, Buccaneers? Come on.
Yeah, that I agree. It's a bad situation right now in that division. I don't really know what to think. We'll talk about Tampa a little bit more, but yeah, credit to the Falcons though. They are in first place. They are taking advantage of this situation, and there's still talent on this team. Like, there's still some nice pieces. Now, I don't think this was a okay Mariota game. I thought he was good at points, but he almost threw the game away.
Yeah.
So I thought there were some pretty bad parts of this game. So I think it's just an okay team with some really nice pieces. Kyle Pitts was good.
Yeah, Anthony in the chat saying plucky Falcons. Yeah, absolutely. I think I had something I was going to say, but lost it. So let's just move on. Let's go to, trying to figure out what the next, but let's do the London game. Why don't we? Again, another great London game. All these London games are fantastic. Again, at least very close here. I thought that this was a very exciting game where it really felt like at times Jaguars got off to a hot start here in this one. Kind of one of the ongoing trends of this week was the 2021 draft class quarterback wise, making some boneheaded decisions. Lawrence had a couple of tough picks in this one.
Yeah, it was not a good game for him, and this basically writes off the Jaguars for us this season. I think this was a loser stays in London game, not even leaves town. Like he made some bad throws. It's a good defense for the Broncos, but he made some clear cut mistakes that I thought hurt Jacksonville, and that's kind of been the theme of Jacksonville's season. It's like I think this is a talented team. I'm standing by that, but it's just like there's 3 or 4 plays each game. It seems like just kills this team, just absolutely kills them. And it felt like they fell on Lawrence's shoulders this week, especially. So not going to get it done. I think they need some pieces to address. And then, I mean, unless Lawrence starts to show something, I guess the thing is that if this team's high up in the draft boards again, which it seems like it's going to be, do you start having those questions about Trevor Lawrence in his future?
You have to start having a discussion. You do. You have to start, and we'll get into the same thing with the Jets in a second, I'm sure. But you have to have the discussion at the very least. Again, Lawrence only 133 yards on 31 attempts. I mean, he had a good amount of attempts in this one. Couldn't even crack 150 yards. He was in the Blaine Gabbert zone. And again, that goal line interception. That was just a dagger.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it really, and it's not even the first time he's done that too.
I know he won't stop doing it.
Yeah, his interceptions seem like they all come at the worst time. I can think of at least 4 off the top of my head that are around the goal line. You can't turn the ball over there. You need at least points.
Right. Also, I remember what I was going to say about the Panthers Falcons. I do sometimes when I'm listening to the game think, do these announcers even watch football? Because at one point they brought up that the Panthers were doing all this against a good Falcons defense, and I'm like, what are we talking about? A good Falcons defense? But that's no. But yeah, I mean, listen, the one thing you have to say, Broncos defense is very good, and that's kind of the listen. Lawrence struggled, and Lawrence has kind of very much cooled off after I believe it was week 3 where he was kind of looking good. So that's the concern. You've also seen Christian Kirk really cool off after all the victory laps were ran early on this season. So it's tough. And the reality is the way that the Jaguars get better is Trevor Lawrence gets better. Like they kind of built their team to be relatively this team now. Like this is kind of what they're going to be. If Trevor Lawrence doesn't get better, this team isn't. They can only go as where Trevor Lawrence goes.
Yeah, I think I agree because when he was playing well the first few weeks, they are winning football games. And I think this team's capable of winning football games if it gets high-level quarterback play. And we were waiting for that leap, and it seemed like it was happening to start the season. Now it's cooling off. Whereas, I don't know, can you say this has to feel good for Denver that they at least got some decent offensive play in this one in the second half, right?
It was. I think this is a really optimistic game from Denver. I think Russell Wilson played well in this one. He had that one missed deep throw, and it was like, oh no, there you go. You're playing solid, and then you missed that. But he came back and hit a deep throw right after that, and he had a good scramble. Russell Wilson started to look more like Russell Wilson in this game, and to me, for Denver, it's weird because I'm almost viewing them as though they have a good rookie, as though they have like a hyped up rookie quarterback prospect of like, hey, if Russell Wilson's good this year, then it's a win as a year at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird situation because I felt like this team would be good if they got tier 2 quarterback play, and they haven't really got that. And I think the second half of this game is the closest we've seen to that this season. It's just been a weird year for this Denver team. I mean, they have 4 basically back-breaking losses this season, and yet they're 3-5. They're still in the conversation, and I mean, maybe this turns it around and they get on a run here. I mean, it felt like the winner of this game we might talk them back into the conversation. I feel like we might have to bring Denver back into the conversation now.
What conversation?
As a potential 7 seed?
I'm trying to think right now. So these are the teams that are the 4 division leaders are the Titans, Ravens, Chiefs, and Bills. You don't have the Jets ahead of them, the Dolphins ahead of them, the Chargers ahead of them, the Bengals ahead of them. So that's it. So I feel like Bengals and Chargers it's possible, but they have to start winning again.
Yeah,
dug themselves in a hole.
Yeah, I mean, like I feel like if I'm looking at the teams that are in a playoff conversation now, which you could probably put outside the division leaders, you got the Bengals in there, you got the Jets, Dolphins, Patriots, you got the Chargers, basically in that conversation. I feel pretty confident that the Dolphins and Bengals are going to be there. I don't feel confident about any of those other teams. I feel like that's kind of up for the taking for anybody right now.
Yeah, no, I think I totally agree. Last thought about the Jaguars. I kind of mentioned this is what their team is. They have the fifth least amount of salary cap space heading in the next season. So this is, they kind of built it for this team. But hey, Trayvon Walker got a half a sack on a stunt where he was unblocked. So things are looking up.
Yeah. They do weird stuff with him. I'm not like I don't think the pass rush numbers are going to do him a lot of justice. But
Oh God, here we go again.
I just think I don't
Oh,
know.
look at he can play different positions though.
He is multi-positional.
No, you are right. You can't just look at it straight up like whatever is pressures, what are sacks. That's fair, but still.
Yeah, I mean, here the thing is, like, they're not going to have draft or salary cap, but they're going to have high draft capital. So that's an easy way to rebuild your team too. They should get, I mean, theoretically, they should get multiple starters from next year's draft class.
Yeah, maybe you could get a good run stopping, a decent run stopping defensive end in the next draft.
Oh boy, here we go. Just leave the kid alone, man. He's still learning. Give him a chance.
Okay. People didn't leave me alone after he had a sack week 1. Let's move on. Let's go to. Let's just stick with the kind of the draft class of woes here.
Oh boy.
I have to say, Kyle, this was Johnny Manziel-esque. This was rough by Zach Wilson.
Well, it was such a bizarre game because I think there was basically, towards the end of the second half, Mac Jones had a really bad interception that was returned for a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
That all of a sudden is called back for a roughing the passer, which by the letter, you could debate some roughing the passer calls. By the letter of the law, I don't think it really affected the pick, but by the letter of the law, it was pretty clearly a roughing the passer. So they get a first down out of it. They still don't score because they get stopped at 4th and 1, but it gives the Jets some life to go down and try and get some points. And instead of being up 17-3, they're only up 10-3. Zach Wilson has one of the more inexplicable interceptions where he just threw it over his guy's head by a mile. Jawan Bentley gets it. The Patriots, which felt like at one point in the first half they should be down 30-3 today, were all of a sudden 10-6. And then in the second half, it just seemed like the life was sucked out of the Jets. And even if there was life in the Jets, Zach Wilson took that life away from them because he just could not stop throwing the ball to the other team. He had 2 really bad interceptions in the second half too. Disaster game for the Jets overall in the second half.
Yeah, and his first half interception wasn't great either. The obvious, low light here by Wilson was he's 2 yards away from the line of scrimmage. He's getting pressured, so he decides to throw the ball away and inexplicably just throws it straight to a New England Patriot. I mean, I don't know what in the world you can throw it 2 feet in front of you and you're good. And it's not grounding. It would have been so easy to throw that ball away. That was just terrible.
Oh, that was the McCourty one, the last one. I mean, Tyler Conklin was literally quadruple covered on that play.
Oh, right, that one, yeah.
Yeah, he threw it over him and right to Devin McCourty's lap. I mean,
I was wondering about that one, if maybe there was some sort of communication thing, because sometimes that happens.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but there was nobody else around him, I don't think.
Well, I think maybe he thought that it was going to be a different route, which is why it looked. I mean, it's still a terrible decision, but at least maybe that's why he threw it to nobody.
Yeah, it was a weird game. Like, I didn't think the Patriots played well for a lot of it, but then I thought the coverage got better in the second half. I think they could really use Kyle Duggar for a lot of the stuff he does well. I think they need him back, and I thought the coverage improved in the second half, but it was going on basically 6 quarters of this defense not playing well. When you go back to that Bears game and then this one, where they're not covering guys are wide open off of routes, and then all of a sudden it's like Bentley gets the pick and everything's fixed and everyone's okay.
Yeah, no, that definitely worked out well. They got the splash plays, and for whatever reason, when Zach Wilson's playing Bill Belichick, especially in Meadowlands, it does not go well. Only 3.8 yards per play for this Patriots offense. So, I thought Ramondre Stevenson made some nice plays. They're still not really moving the ball down the field super effectively.
No, everything still looks difficult, and it wasn't very good at all in this game. Mac Jones, was not very good in this game. I think there's another team here that's going to – both of these teams, I think, have to have conversations about their quarterback this offseason, their quarterback situation. Mac Jones has seemingly kind of regressed. I thought, like you said, I thought Stevenson was basically the bright partner to this game. He had 143 yards from scrimmage. I thought Jacoby Myers was good. Outside of that, everything looks hard for the Patriots still. I don't really understand. So Tyquan Thornton got a lot of reps in this game. And I was happy to see him on the field, but it seemed like he was in there a lot to do run blocking plays or run go routes. And it's just like, do we not understand how to utilize speed guys like the rest of the league does? Like, why aren't we putting him on these jet sweep actions that everyone does for easy completions and easy yards? Why aren't we finding ways to get him involved in quick passes that let him use his speed and get open and make plays in the open field? I think he needs to find ways to make things happen.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you said. Also, the chat is now just talking about Trayvon Walker stuff. This is my bad. My bad. I derailed everything.
Yeah, I don't know. It's it is what it is. I mean,
listen, he's a young player. He could get better. I don't know why. I feel like I'm not. I don't know why I came so hard on him on this podcast.
I don't know, but I mean, at the same time, like, if you're gonna say like, what he's been, I don't think he's been as good. I defended him there. I don't think he's been as good as Thibodeau or Hutchinson this season. So there's that.
Yeah, and people are bringing up, Hutchinson has some lows. Yeah, he has too. I'm not saying Hutchinson's been underwhelming. I feel like Thibodeau's been cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think Hutchinson's still been better. So I guess
Yeah.
there's that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Anyways, back to the Jets and the Patriots. We talk about the hard conversations. I was hearing some. Do you go away from Zach Wilson? Do you bench Zach Wilson? And Zach Wilson actually, he had kind of a great garbage time drive at the end there to kind of make you feel a little better. I thought Zach Wilson just looked. I thought he kind of just crumbled under the pressure a little bit. Like it looked like he was just not even looking at his reads anymore and just trying to wait till the plays develop. Every throw was coming outside the numbers. He was scrambling around and then making it happen. I mean, to me, when Zach Wilson was just playing calm and running the offense actually looked all right. It was just that he kind of, he threw the interception. I thought like that bad interception when he was trying to throw the ball away. And it felt like he just like, he collapsed.
Yeah. I didn't think it wasn't a good game. The passing yard stats are definitely deceiving. I thought he had some good throws in the first half. I definitely did. But the thing that's the problem is like, I think this Jets team's kind of good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it's solid at least. Obviously, the Breece Hall injury has hurt him because it wasn't as explosive today. But I think this is a decent Jets team. And I think the question is going to be if you want to try, we were talking about teams for that 7 seed. I think this team talent-wise is just as much in that conversation for the 7 seed as anybody else. So does this team all of a sudden have to consider going to Joe Flacco to say we can make the playoffs? Like, that could be a legitimate conversation at this point.
And we all know, Joe Flacco in January, look out. I mean, that's, a few guys you'd rather, like to go up against less. The thing about the Jets, though, is they play the Bills next week and then the Patriots in New England again. So it's like, if you're sticking, I mean, they have a bye week in between the Bills and the Patriots. But I mean, the next 2 games, they could easily be 5-5. In fact, that's probably where smart money would be on, is that they will be 5-5 2 weeks from now. But of course, so it's they need Zach Wilson to step it up. That's really what they need.
Yeah, they do. I mean, I don't know. It's been interesting because this has been such a dynamite draft class that it feels like this team's in a great position to succeed. But it's going to be another team, and now the problem is that it might be too good to get a high draft pick to get that quarterback that they need. So are they going to trade up for that? Are they going to try and trade for a veteran quarterback? I don't know what the solution is here.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I mean, if Zach Wilson keeps playing this way, I think he can make the decision easy for them. Let's move on, why don't we? I feel like there's going to be, Dolphins fans probably very excited to another 10+ yard per attempt game. Incredible stuff from this. Really, the Dolphins offense in general. We saw a return of the Lions offense that had been so hot to start the season. They seemingly are back. They had some guys make some nice plays. We kind of speculated on the preview show, could we see a return with this Lions offense? We did. It felt like they were going to, maybe pull off the upset. It felt like they had that. It was kind of the Dan Campbell special, right? You're convinced they're going to pull off the upset. They have a fake punt in this one and then lose. If they scored one more point, this would have been the full Dan Campbell special of losing by 3.
Yeah. It looked great to start. It looked like they were going to pull off the upset, like you're saying. They jumped out to a 14-0 lead, capitalized on a turnover, and then it all kind of just spiraled out of control, and the Dolphins came alive. This Dolphins offense, when it's clicking, is really good and really potent, and it just gets guys open seemingly easier than anybody else in the league. Part of that is having 2 speedy wide receivers who are awesome in open field, so that helps. But yeah, I mean, it just seemed like that everything in the second half was working for this Miami offense for a bit, and Detroit just didn't have a counter at that point and kind of ran out of steam, it felt like.
We have a super chat. That 4th and 2 long bomb to Reynolds killed me. Yes. I mean, yeah, that was, I mean, so close to hitting that, and how, that could have been the game right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, you're absolutely right. It's like this Dolphins team, w- the Tua to Tyreek and Jalen Waddle thing, and with Mike Gesicki as the third option when needed, it's just, I mean, this is just a great classic example of like how dominant receivers can just completely change the makeup of a football team. I mean, they've gone out and think about how much draft capital they spent to get Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. I mean, we're talking 2 first-round picks for Jalen Waddle because they traded up to do that. And then Tyreek Hill, what was a first-rounder plus 4 other picks, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
That's a ton of draft capital. But the fact that those 2 guys are as good as they are, it's, you wouldn't give those guys up for the draft capital back. You'd have to get a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, they scored on 5 straight possessions. 4 touchdowns and a field goal. And honestly, if what's his name? Sanders, whoever Sanders is, if he doesn't fumble the ball in the first drive, it would have been 6 straight possessions and probably 5 touchdowns and a field goal. The only downside is that they gave up they gave up scores on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight possessions as well, and all in the first half. So that's something that's got to be cleaned up. But at the same time, like, if your offense is going to score on 5 straight possessions, you're in a good shape.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I think you have to think about with the Dolphins, though, you're 5-3 and you're 5-0 with your starting quarterback there. So you feel very good about that. You also have, an easy part of the schedule coming up. You play the Bears next, you have the Browns, and then you have the Texans. So you're feeling good here. But the defense has started to, again, coverage is impossible to predict. Their coverage has just not been good this season.
It's been inconsistent for sure. I thought it was good in week 1. I thought it was good against the Steelers. But then again, the Patriots and Steelers aren't exactly the the best passing football teams in the league. But then, despite getting the win, they struggled against the Ravens. They struggled against the Bengals after Tua went out, and they struggled against the Jets, which is a little more concerning. So they have winnable games on their schedule coming up. I think this team's going to go on a run. My question, I guess, is I'm not ready to put this in a tier 1 team yet. I'm not ready to say they're going to compete with Kansas City and Buffalo because of that defense. But I think that's something like, if this coverage ends up fixing itself and they go on that run, are you going to be shocked? Like, I guess I wouldn't necessarily be shocked if they figure things out, because there's good players on that.
I could easily see them being kind of a San Francisco type run, right? I mean, it's kind of built the same way you get this super hot offense that's not really ran the way you typically expect. It's not like Buffalo or Kansas City. But listen, if your points per drive is high, what's the difference? And again, and Tua's still hitting deep shots as well, so it's not like they're fully a Jimmy Garoppolo offense either. So no, I wouldn't be shocked at all. They're maybe a dark horse team right now.
Yeah, I think the thing is, like, so is Byron Jones actually going to play this season? That's what I'm like. He hasn't played at all, right?
I'm not sure. I haven't been looking up that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing that could like kind of catapult this defense back, because having your true number 2 guy back out there, I think, could go a long way, because I mean, there's still good players across the secondary, but at the same time, there are guys in the secondary that aren't playing up to caliber too.
Yeah, Byron Jones, no snaps this season. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that could be the big thing, because that's like a free trade acquisition, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. No, exciting stuff going on for the Dolphins. Not so exciting stuff going on for the Lions, but that's kind of what the Lions are, unfortunately, right now. Maybe next year.
Probably not, but maybe in a couple years.
They're on a pathway. They got some stars, but just need to build a more complete roster. Let's move on. Why don't we? Speaking of stars, we saw the LaDainian Tomlinson hat trick pulled off today by Christian McCaffrey. He had a passing touchdown, a rushing touchdown, and a receiving touchdown. First guy since LaDainian Tomlinson. First guy to do it since LaDainian Tomlinson in 2005. So that trade already paying off in a big way. And this is kind of why you and I were so excited about their loss to the Chiefs last week, even though they got kind of crushed, was how good this offense looked with McCaffrey in there. They were able to beat a struggling Rams team.
Yeah, the Rams are dead. I'm done with the Rams. I don't think
Okay.
this team's good enough to beat San Francisco or Seattle right now. Either team. They're behind both.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't think they're good enough. I was unimpressed with this team again. This offense isn't fixing itself, and I think it's coming off a bye week too. And then this defense gets torched. I mean, look how easy this game looked for Jimmy Garoppolo. He was 21 to 25, 235, and 2 touchdowns. And this is exactly why you go and pay, an offense. You could say, this team could run the ball when even without Christian McCaffrey with a Jeff Wilson back there. This is why you go add a Christian McCaffrey to this offense, because it's unbelievable what he was able to do tonight or in this game. And I think he is terrific. I thought he was awesome in this game, and I think the Rams are dead.
Wow. Are the Rams dead? Let's put that in the header for when you do the Twitter thing of what we talked about. I'm not ready to call them dead just yet. They're tough. I mean, listen, when your leading rusher is Ronnie Rivers, I mean, this is there's some issues going on here. Stafford, 187 yards on 33 attempts. I think so. They play Tampa Bay next week. That's a big time marquee loser leaves town matchup, right?
Yeah, it feels like it, but I don't know. Like, how does this team fix itself? I don't know how they do it. I don't know
I don't
what
think
they
they're a
can
great
get
team.
better.
I don't. I
Yeah.
think this is just what this team is. I think that they're a mediocre team.
Honestly, you could have told me Ronnie Rivers played for the Rams, or you could have told me he was like a low budget Marvel character, and I would have believed either scenario. So
Yeah, I could see that. What
I mean,
what what is Ronnie Rivers' superpower?
I don't know, something
Not running the football.
like he's like a tech guy or something stupid like that.
Yeah, I can see that. He's one of those guys, a friend of like Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't think this is a very good team outside of Cooper Kupp, and it continues to prove that Cooper Kupp is the most important part of this team. And I mean, listen, Donald is still terrific. I still think this defensive line's good, but you talked about coverage being inconsistent. Outside of Jalen Ramsey, I don't think this is a good coverage unit, anyways. And I
Well, but
don't think
they did.
Ramsey's having his best season either.
But we also knew. I mean, this was a big concern going into the season, right? This is why I was much lower on the Rams. I still think I had them as a playoff team, but my concern about the Rams heading into the season was like they let Darius Williams walk and didn't really replace him with anybody, and now you're seeing like exactly why that was a mistake.
Well, it's also like 2 years of getting poached, because it was the year before it was John Johnson and Troy Hill. And
Hmm.
they've been trying to just plug and play these guys, and now when you're down three of your main secondary guys, it's all of a sudden not that easy to just keep finding guys to replace the system. Not everyone's Bill Belichick when it comes to replacing secondary pieces. Um,
Right.
so yeah, I mean, I think it's a problem. Do you see a scenario? I don't know. Like, watching this team right now, do you see a scenario where this team could catch Seattle or San Francisco? I think those two teams are clearly better than them.
I think I agree. I mean, I guess the one thing is, could Seattle cool off just because they are, we still are like, could Geno Smith turn back into old Geno Smith? I don't think so. No, you're kind of talking me into this. Yeah, they don't feel like they actually feel. Here's a good question: the Buccaneers, who we'll get to the Thursday night game in a bit. There's the Buccaneers, the Rams, and the Packers. Who do you feel like has the best chance to, we'll say, make the NFC Championship game? And none of them have a great chance, but who would you say has the best chance?
I still say Tampa, because the division is going to allow them to maybe mess around and still win the division. Like, they can win their division, I think, at 9-8, and then with Brady, with Evans, with God, like, there's still talent on Tampa's roster that I can buy myself into. That's the thing. Like, I think this team's talent deprived when I look at this Rams team. I think the Packers, obviously Kupp is still amazing, but outside of that, there's not name one talented offensive player besides Cooper Kupp right now on this Rams team. I just don't see it. Robinson's okay.
Yeah, he started to find a role. I put Higbee in there, but no, I get your point. I mean, when you're saying Higbee, what about Higbee? That's not exactly making you feel great. One thing we also should mention is, like, no one's saying Matt Stafford right now. That's maybe the way the Rams can get back into this, is if he can start playing well again. I mean, he hasn't played horrible. It's been kind of a situation thing, but he hasn't played great either.
Yeah, and there was this talk about this elbow thing going into the season, and it seems like it's messing with him too. So I just think, yeah, I'm writing off this Rams team unless they make a major trade or a major signing, which I just don't think's out there. So I would say Tampa, because I still think they can win their division pretty easily, because I just don't think teams in that division are good. And not to mention, I still think if the talent figures itself out in Tampa, I think they have a higher ceiling than this team by far.
Yeah. I might actually go Green Bay. I feel like they have a way to fix some of their issues, but I could see it. Neither one of us are picking the Rams. Let's, I guess, any final thoughts on the 49ers before we move on? I guess, I don't know. They're good.
Yeah, this is the ceiling of this team, I feel like. I feel like this team can – this is where you could kind of talk yourself into the 49ers being an NFC winner, right?
Uh-huh. The ceiling of this team, playing the Rams.
Well, no, just the –
No,
well,
I'm just making a joke because that really is – that feels like every time they play the Rams, they show their ceiling.
Yeah, exactly. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, I do think like the best version of this team like is going to be potentially winning the NFC because, McCaffrey adds that much to this team.
Yeah. No, I agree. Let's move on. Why don't we? Let's talk. This is the 1 point game. The Balls beat the Colts. I don't know how. The Colts, I look, to me, it's weird because the yards per play were about the same, but the Colts really should have won this game. I feel like they had multiple turnovers inside field goal range. They also kept kicking these field goals. I thought that the offense looked significantly better with Sam Ellinger out there,
Yeah.
but they couldn't capitalize on those opportunities, and Washington was able to. They were able. I mean, Terry McLaurin, as back-to-back weeks, basically just won his team a football game. He's been incredible, and they were able to defeat the Indianapolis Colts and go to 4-4. Washington has a chance at the playoffs right now.
Yeah, 3 wins in a row. All of a sudden, they could be one of those teams battling for a 7 seed. So, yeah, I mean, like you said, this game was won because for the second week in a row, Terry McLaurin was the best player on the field. I mean, that last catch to set up the touchdown was unbelievable, and he had a fantastic showing. Yeah. So, I mean, despite all the odds, I think this Washington team could make the playoffs. I think the thing is so. I don't think he's good. Let's start there. I don't think he's good. He's a solid backup quarterback, but Taylor Heinicke has to start the rest of the year, right? Like it just has to happen.
Yeah, I think so. And it's also like he just I don't know what this I don't know. I don't get this guy. He's not good. He doesn't seemingly play well, and then just finds a way to win games in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. I mean, he's like the less Tebow with the worst resume, basically, isn't he?
What's that?
He's like Tebow with the worst resume, basically.
Right. Yeah. There's a similar. I mean, that Tebow season, I still can't believe that happened.
That was one of the most outrageous things ever. I can't get over it. That it was bizarre. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I thought Ellinger was the better quarterback in this game too, and I thought he played well. I mean, the one thing you can't fumble the ball in that spot, but at the same time, he made some really good throws, and it looked like there was a verticality to this Colts offense we hadn't seen before in the past few weeks.
Yeah, and he was playing his first game. Like I thought, rookie mistakes are going to happen. He had a couple of those, but I agree. I thought that he came in and looked good. I think the Colts. If you're a Colts fan, you were feeling really optimistic about this game until you blew that lead in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean the problem is like so this team's now slipping out of the division race because Tennessee won again.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a situation is this team being written off now at this point? Because I don't see a pathway for them winning the division. They got at New England, which we'll see, at Las Vegas, which we'll see. Colts or Eagles are going to be a tough team. Can this Colts team get back in it at this point?
They might need a slip up from the Titans.
Yeah. Or
which is possible. I mean, the nice thing is they only have one team to beat, right? That's the luxury of where they're at.
Yeah. I guess the big thing, I guess we can't write them off just yet because it's like, we just said Denver's still in it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we can write off this Colts team then because they're basically the same. I think the defense has played a little better, which is nice to see. But yeah, I don't know how this team puts it all together. And I think this team has the one glaring thing with this defense, they struggle against big receivers. McLaurin kind of sunned them in this one.
Yeah. Not to bring up a bad memory, but kind of reminds you of the Stephon Gilmore of the Devontae Parker game. That kind of cost the Patriots a bye week when Ryan Fitzpatrick went there. That's the gave the Chiefs the bye week. They went on to win the Super Bowl. That's a way you can beat them.
Yeah, it seems like it. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's a good team. I think it's a solid team at least, but yeah, Ellinger seems like he brings more to this offense, which is going to be interesting to see going forward. And I think the balls are in the conversation all of a sudden. The balls are back, baby. The balls are rolling.
Balls are rolling. Everyone loves balls. Let's move on. Let's go to the Giants Seahawks, a game that was the one game that had two winning teams entering the week playing each other. Seahawks really showed that they're, I think, clearly the better team in this one. I mean, I don't know. Kind of a weird game, definitely, with this one. You think about these two kind of rushing offenses. Neither one of the starting running backs had over 3 yards per carry. Walker with 2.8 yards per carry, Barkley with 2.6 yards per carry. But we saw a little bit more out of the Seahawks passing attack than we did out of the Giants passing attack. Seahawks also won the turnover battle by 1, so that helped. And Seahawks 5-3, looking good.
Yeah, definitely looking good. I mean, this game didn't feel like as close as what the scoreline showed. I mean, it felt like Seattle kind of struggled a little bit to get into this game, and then they had the dumb fumble by Tyler Lockett by the goal line, which set up an easy Giants score. And then all of a sudden, it's like, okay, it felt like the Seahawks were a better team, but they were only up 10-7 at halftime. And then it was quickly 10-10. And, I mean, this game got a little weird from that point, and then Seattle kind of put the pain on. Seattle felt like a much better team in my book.
It is interesting with the Giants because they get off to the 6-1 start, and even you're going to talk yourself into it if it's your team. But like, even Giants fans were like, "Okay, yeah, but look at our situation." But then you look at who they play. They play the Texans and the Lions next, so they're still probably going to be 8-1,
maybe, or 8-2 now.
Yeah, 8-2. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is bizarre how this season has gone and how it's kind of lined up for them here. I mean, they're probably going to make the playoffs because of the start of the season. That's what it is. But, like, am I betting on them? Probably going to bet immediately against them to win a playoff game. So that's going to be an easy win.
Right. We have Joe in the chat. It is I, your resident Giants fan. Giants need receivers. Seahawks are legit. Giants had a loss coming. Yeah, Kyle, Giants 0-1 after trading Kadarius Toney.
Yeah, people are asking, should they have kept him?
Yeah. Was he the reason they were winning?
I mean, we've talked about this Giants situation before. I mean, the multitude of bad decisions that led to this with the Toney draft pick all of a sudden, I mean, clearly not working out for them. And then the whole, the signing of, I'm already forgetting his name, Kenny Golladay. And then they've had some injuries too. So all of it kind of stacking up into, this is the worst receiving core in football, right?
Yeah. I mean, Tanner Hudson couldn't make the Tampa Bay roster. He's their second leading receiver in this one. I mean, it's very reminiscent of the Jaguars last year.
Yeah.
Not quite that bad, but it's rough.
Do you think they take Laquan Treadwell right now?
Maybe. Maybe. I think that they would maybe give up a 7th round swap, perhaps.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that they should probably consider.
Yeah. Wando Robinson's looked nice, but again, only so much he can do.
He's a rookie.
Right. Yeah. There's just some, there's some issues. Seahawks defense playing better, though. Again, I know it's the Giants, but still, 3 yards per play is 3 yards per play given up.
5 sacks, 6 pass deflections in coverage, too. I thought it was really good overall. I made plenty of jokes about the Seattle team to start the season, and I think some of them were rightfully so. But this team is getting better week by week. It seems like these young guys on defense are starting to play better. And yeah, I mean, I think this is the point now where we might have to start taking this team a little more seriously as not only just a division winner in the NFC South, but can this team go on a little bit of a run as we saw? So we had our 3 NFC powers that we kind of thought preseason. And none of those teams are living up to expectations. The Eagles are obviously terrific, but it seems like there's a power vacuum in the NFC, and maybe the Seahawks team's already ready to step up and take it.
I think I'm not quite ready to go just there yet. They've been a little bit too up and down for me as of right now. I want to see more.
A little bit more, I think. I agree with that, but I'm not putting them on the tier with the Eagles, by the way. And I'd still probably have they're ahead in the standings, but I'd still probably have San Francisco as the better team. But I don't think this team right now is that far off from being in that conversation.
Okay, well, interesting. I can see it. On their best day, they're certainly in that conversation. Let's move on, why don't we? You talked about one NFC team that maybe deserves a lot of respect. How about another one that maybe deserves respect? The Minnesota Vikings, another team that just keeps winning. 6-1 here. They defeat the Arizona Cardinals in another badly timed missed extra point to keep it an 8-point game. So kickers, and that was also would have made it 35 points. So kind of weird how that worked out. But, this one worked out a lot better. Minnesota pulls off the victory in this one. The one thing we're seeing with Arizona is DeAndre Hopkins really does make this offense work. I mean, he had 159 yards, 12 receptions, and a touchdown in this one. He was huge, and that obviously opens up this, for things like Rondale Moore to have 92 yards of his own as well. Kyler did turn the ball over a couple times. This game kept feeling like the Vikings are going to pull away. They're going to pull away. They're going to pull away. And they just never quite pulled away, but still won.
Well, they gave Arizona 3 opportunities to come back and tie this game up. And it was because, the first was the Kyler interception. Then the Vikings go 3 plays for -4 yards, punt. And then the Cardinals turn the ball over on downs. Then the Vikings go 3 plays for 7 yards, punt. And then it was the end of the game because the Cardinals, couldn't do anything at the end of it. But it was just like they go into this 4-minute, we talk about this Vikings team looking good but unconvincing at times. And then all of a sudden they go into this 4-minute offense, which they basically churn over those 2 drives, 2 minutes and 45 seconds off the clock to get 3 yards. And it's just like, okay, yes, you won the game, but why? They have so much talent on offense. Why not just focus on getting first downs instead of killing clock?
Yeah, might be a good idea for the Vikings. Listen, I see someone in the chat saying fraud 6-1. I kind of agree. I kind of do agree that I don't think that they're fully been 6-1, but they're still a team where it's like, I feel like this team could beat anyone in the NFC. I think it's possible. They certainly have the talent. Their defense has been a bit up and down, but I think, again, made some plays in this one. That's all you want to see it be able to do. Again, yes, everyone's going to talk about D-Hop in this one, but Justin Jefferson's a great receiver of his own, 98 yards as well. So, again, like you said, there's a power vacuum in the NFC. I could see this being one of the teams that, is competing for, to win the conference.
Yeah, I don't think this is Giants fraudulent, but I still have a lot of questions about this team. Their secondary is very inconsistent.
Sure.
That feels true.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Patrick Peterson, by the way, is one of my favorite players in football right now because he has these moments of pure brilliance that it's oh, that's old Patrick Peterson. And then he gets burnt by 15 yards on the next play. But he still has those moments in him that it's old school Patrick Peterson. He had a pass deflection in the end zone today that was one of the most unreal defensive plays I've ever seen. He was fully outstretched on the play, making a huge deflection. And then it was another play later, he gets up a first down. So it's just I don't really know what to think of this guy. But yeah, it's a wildly inconsistent secondary.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff there. Za'Darius Smith had 3 sacks in this one. J.J. Watt had a pair of sacks as well. So a couple of, name brand edge rushers showing why they get paid a bunch of money. All right, yeah. Want to move
on? Yeah, I think so.
All right, let's do Raiders Saints. Kyle, what the hell happened to the Raiders?
They're dead. That's what happened.
Yeah.
This is pathetic. This was really pathetic. We talked about there's some bad performances this season from him, but this is maybe the worst Derek Carr game of the last 5 years, right? This was unbelievably bad. This was he looked. The entire offense looked like they wanted no part of this game, and we said that. Part of my argument for the Raiders, I think, being pretty good is that, okay, they have to kind of start playing desperate now. Nobody looked desperate in this game, that's for sure. It looked lifeless.
No, I agree. This was tough. Guys weren't winning. Devontae Adams was dropping passes. Guys weren't getting open. Carr was missing throws left and right. You're absolutely right. This was a disaster. This Raiders team who it was kind of the battle. These two teams. It's the battle of teams that we feel like should have a better record than they actually do. Well, the Raiders this game didn't look like they should have a better record than 2-5.
Yeah, they definitely did not. They look like a high draft pick team in this one. Yeah, this is. I'm trying to breeze through it here real quick. Of the last 3 years that I've looked at, this is the lowest amount of passing yards Derek Carr's had in a game that he didn't start or that he started. So I mean, it tells you a lot about, what it was for him in this game. It was a really bad game for all of the offense. I don't think you could point to one guy and say they're blameless in this one. Maybe Josh Jacobs, who continues to run hard, but they were down big early and he didn't get a lot of carries. Outside of that, it just seemed like everyone kind of sucked.
Yeah, and I thought the Saints, I thought the Saints did do a good job run defense wise. 4.3 yards per carry is solid by Jacobs, but they didn't allow any big carries really. I thought for the most part, there was a lot of third down and longs, which created kind of a tough spot for the Raiders. They could not convert on a lot of early third downs. I mean, again, when you lose a game and you have to put your backup quarterback in, and your backup quarterback gets 13 attempts, that's not great.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. Saints did look good though. Let's give them credit too,
Yeah.
because I said this team is looking terrible. They
Mhm.
kind of put it together this week. Andy Dalton bounced back and had a much better game, not back-to-back sixes with Chelp. The big
Mhm.
thing to me is like he was still involved in the offense, but less Taysom Hill and more Alvin Kamara is generally a good thing for a football team.
Yeah, more Alvin Kamara. I mean, this was the Alvin. I feel like he has like 3 of these a season, right? Where he just like completely looks like he's unstoppable.
Yeah, maybe the Raiders should also probably try and game plan to stop him sometimes. That also would have
Perhaps.
helped, but at the same time, he made some big time plays, and a lot of these weren't just necessarily him being wide open. It was him also making guys miss and breaking tackles too.
Yeah, and the Saints have a legitimate chance to win this division.
Yeah, I mean, can we write off? I mean, I guess the one team we probably write off here is the Panthers, right? Say that team's not. I'd be shocked if they win the division.
Yeah,
Everyone
I
else
think.
feels like they could still win it.
Yeah, no, and again, they play again. All these teams play each other again, so that's also what makes
Yeah.
it exciting. Is that'll probably be what ends up kind of deciding it, perhaps. And the Buccaneers schedule. We'll talk about them in a second. It's a tough schedule coming up. So
Yeah.
the Saints are absolutely a team that this is kind of a reminder of the Saints exist.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're going to be in the conversation at the end of the season. If they can get this Andy Dalton all season, I think they're in the conversation. They can't get the Andy Dalton that's turning the ball over multiple times because this team just isn't built to play from behind.
Yeah, I completely agree. Let's talk about their division rival. Let's talk about my Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who, this is kind of what I expected going in. For a second, it looked like they might be back early on in this Thursday game. They did have a lead at halftime, but the Baltimore Ravens were able to, 14-point third quarter. Buccaneers didn't score any in the third quarter. That was kind of the real difference here. Struggles continue for Tampa Bay. I'll lead it off. The one thing couple of frustrations. Like one thing I think is like a great microcosm of why this team is struggling so much. Rashad White has clearly outplayed Leonard Fournette, and this coaching staff refuses to let him be the starter. Like it's kind of just a great example of like this coaching staff is going to do what they went into the season expecting to do, and it's not working.
Yeah, it just seems like they're content with that it's going to figure itself out. And,
Mm-hmm.
I think part of this too is like they're probably looking at the numbers and saying, well, Brady's throwing for 320 yards a game or whatever it is. Clearly something's working. And we know this isn't a very deeply analytical department,
Mm-hmm.
franchise. But, the numbers are going to say this passing game hasn't been as good as it should be too. So I think, the raw numbers on this team might look decent. It's still not good enough to say you're going to win football games, and it translates to the scoreboard too.
Yeah, no. I mean, there's just again, uh, there's no excuse for this offense being as poor as it is. Uh, Granted, like we should mention, Brady played poor in this one, and Brady has not been the issue of this offense. Again, the
Right.
fact that him and Rodgers get blamed just proves that people will just blame the quarterback if their team is struggling, regardless. But he also has not been what the Buccaneers need him to be a Super Bowl contender, which is they need him to be at least really good. And he's having a down season by his
Uh,
standards.
yeah, yeah. I think he is too. I don't think he's playing to his full potential. I don't. I mean, I don't want to speculate on the stuff. Everybody else is speculating on it, so you can
Hmm.
go read social media for that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't think this offense is working the way they wanted to. And I mean, I don't know what is your solution to this because they're throwing the ball a lot more. Now, I said that they are running the ball less, but it seems like when they do run the ball, it's at the dumbest times if possible. But
Uh-huh.
what does it feel like is you're at the game? What's the vibe like? And what do you think is the solution to fixing this offense?
Well, to some degree, it's like the players have to play better, which is, kind of stupid, but it's just like, I mean, this receiving core hasn't been great this season. It's been a mediocre receiving core. Like we expect this to be this elite receiving core. It has not done that. So when you go into the season expecting elite quarterback play, elite receiving core, and you've had mediocre receiving core and tier 2 quarterback play, that's not good enough. I think it's a simple fix. Put Rashad White in as the starting running back. That's just an easy fix. I think that, I would like to see more kind of, trying to schemes guys open. Don't force them to have to win these one-on-one matchups. And as we have in the not a super chat, but a regular chat saying worst red zone offense in the NFL, that's to me the most inexcusable thing. A Mike Evans offense should never have the worst red zone offense in football. That's just that makes zero sense.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they ended up finally getting one with Julio at the end of this, so maybe that kind of spearheads
Under
a little
17th
bit.
try.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that spearheads thing. I mean, like having Gronk also helped. Like
Yeah.
there was a lot of things that I thought Gronk wasn't good at in Tampa Bay, or not quite the same level as he was at his best. He was still good in the red zone, and he was still good at blocking. And those are two things that seems like they desperately need right now, is a tight end blocker and also someone who can catch the ball in the red zone, because I still think it's a pretty good offensive line. It's not nearly as good at an offensive line when you don't have Gronk in there as your 6th offensive lineman.
Sure. Well, I mean, and also when you don't have, 3 of their, I mean, when you have
They're missing
the injuries
starters too. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the offensive stuff. I don't think the offense is going to be great this year, but it can still be solid. It can still improve from what it's doing. As for the defense, I think, it sucks because I feel like finally in this game, I'm like, oh man, Shaq Barrett all the way back. He's looking like Shaq Barrett again. He's making plays constantly. Torn Achilles. So that's that just sucks. That's gonna be tough. Also, Zion McCollum might be the worst cornerback I've ever seen play football. I mean, this guy is just, I feel bad for a guy. Like, listen, he shouldn't be in this situation. He's a 5th round pick. If we're being honest, he's kind of a fringe NFL talent who's now forced to be a starting corner due to injuries. And the Ravens were picking on him. I saw a comment saying like, oh, the Buccaneers kept missing tackles. No, Zion McCollum keeps missing tackles. I mean, this is the guy he's really struggled out there. Maybe, rookie corners take some time to develop. Maybe he can improve. I'm not trying to, that was mean by me saying that he's the worst corner, but he's struggling out there.
Do you give Richard Sherman a call? Get him out of the
absolutely.
Thursday night?
I'd give him a call. Sure. Why not?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, it's a bad situation. I mean, the other thing too is like we talked about it a little bit. The Ravens run on everybody, so it's not, I think, a dire situation. But this is not the first week that Tampa Bay has been run on this season, which is kind of surprising because the story has been for most of the time nobody runs on Tampa. They're getting run on now too. So, I mean, there has to be a little bit of concern for that, right?
Yeah, there is. And again, part of that is corners, right? I mean, we don't think about corners really in the run defense, but Zion McCollum had a big blown assignment that gave up, I think it was like a 60-yard run to the Panthers. So that's part of it. They've had some other blown assignments. Vita Vea has not looked as good this year. I don't know what happened there. He's taken a step back, and I think that's a huge part of it because he's the kind of guy who just, you have to put 2 guys on in the running game. That completely changes things. So it's that stuff. You're right. And also, again, Devin White got a lot of criticism after this one. And again, he's Devin White. This is who he is.
Yeah. Some of the videos were really bad. Like really bad. He was unbelievably bad in this game. I think that it's, there was a lot of promise. Obviously, he had some really good year. I thought he had a couple really good years, but it's looking a lot worse. The other one for me too is the Ravens got another tight end. How did they get 2 of these guys? Isaiah Likely is unbelievable. I really liked him at Coastal Carolina, but at the same time, they got 2 guys now. So this Ravens offense all of a sudden looks pretty dynamic. And they traded what was their best receiver in the offseason.
Yeah, no, it's incredible the way the Ravens do this. You're right. Ravens look, again, part of why I'm not too worked up about the defense still is because we were banged up, and it's like Lamar kind of did some Lamar things. He had one option where I'm just like, part of me is like, hey, I will go tell my imaginary grandkids that I don't plan on having that Lamar Jackson was able to make this crazy run. Like there were so many cool things to see there. So Justin Tucker have a failed field goal attempt. That was exciting.
Is that 2 in 2 weeks from now? Look at Should we start having questions about Justin Tucker? Is he washed up?
Because his 61-yard field goal attempt got blocked.
Yeah. Is he washed up now?
Yeah, maybe. I think yes.
Yeah. Think they should cut him. Maybe they should trade him to the Patriots. That's what they should do.
Yeah, I think Bill Belichick would. You would love that until you figured out how much Bill Belichick paid to get it.
Yeah, 2 first-rounders. I mean, we don't even need it. Nick Folk is money, man.
Honestly,
he's the best.
I was like this. Devin White is Draymond Green at this point. Yeah. Well, Draymond Green at least was good.
Yeah, for a little bit longer than Devin White too.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've completely changed my expectations about this Buccaneers team. I'm hoping we make the playoffs. I'm having fun of it. I feel like the old Bucks are back, and that's okay. I knew it was going to happen at some point.
I don't think it's quite that bad, but there are questions to be had. I mean, the good news is that your division is trash. So
right,
there's that. I
mean, that's literally, if we were in a different division, if we were in like the AFC East, I'd be like, it's over. Like, this is done. Like, the one saving grace is that we play in the NFC South.
What the heck? The one time the Patriots aren't very good, all of a sudden the AFC East is good again. I don't get it.
I know. But with the comment last week on a different podcast where someone said, finally Tom Brady gets to play in a weak division.
Yeah, exactly.
Incredible.
Funny.
Yeah. All right. 3 games left. Let's go to the one score game with the Texans here of the, a hilarious one score game, which, there was a touchdown with like 15 seconds left to make it a one score game by the Texans. We saw Malik Willis play. We didn't see him play a lot. We did see him come in, take a few passes. Derrick Henry, well, I believe this is the 4th straight game I saw that he has over 200 rushing yards against the Texans. I mean, that's just incredible. Every since Lovie Smith has gotten there, he's given up a 200-yard rushing game to Derrick Henry every single time he's played. Derrick Henry, Henry obviously 32 carries, 218 yards, and then Dontrell Hilliard comes in. He has 8 carries for 83 yards. Because we kind of talked about, are they going to limit Henry's carries, put Hilliard in more? A little bit. Henry still carried 30 plus times, but maybe part of it is like Henry's saying, "Hey, listen, my legacy, adding some stats against the Texans. I want to do that."
Yeah, I mean, it might be the case. He didn't even play the Texans last year, so that goes all the way back to 2019.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So I mean, it was bad for the Texans' run defense. Not the best day. That's not going to be the best film room for them on Monday. That's for sure. The Texans stink. Derrick Henry's really good. I mean, the weird thing is that I was like, should they lighten the load on Derrick Henry in this game to make it a little easier on them? Then all of a sudden, Ryan Tannehill's not playing. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, that's not going to happen. He gets the ball 32 times in this game. 32.
Yeah.
Like, they're just going to run this guy until he has no legs left. Poor Derrick Henry's going to be like, oh my gosh. He's going to be having Walker at like 45 because of the way they treated him this year.
No, it's tough. But I mean, listen, things are going well for the Titans. Malik Willis didn't look great, but he had 10 passing attempts. So I don't know how much I really want to take into account there.
I mean, QBR of 4.4. The sad thing is that Davis Mills was 7.1. So not the best QBR day for the guys that behind center today. That's for sure.
I mean, I know it's just the Texans, but this Titans defense completely shut down the Texans off. I mean, it was domination.
Yeah, it was very good. Outside of Brandon Cooks, everyone else looked helpless, basically.
Yeah, and even Brandon Cooks, 4 catches for 73 yards. I mean, I guess he's trying to get out of there, maybe.
Yeah. I'm surprised he still hasn't asked for a trade yet.
I think, if I remember correctly, the opposite happened. Like, they wanted to trade him, and he wanted to stay there a couple years back. I think that was the rumor. So, I don't know. Maybe he just likes Houston.
Maybe he's just cashing checks.
It likes warm weather. He probably likes the warm weather.
James Harden endorsed Houston for a lot of years. Great strip club. So
maybe that's it with Brandon Cooks.
Okay. Something there for everybody, I guess.
I suppose so. Davis Mills, not a great day. But at least he's still the best quarterback out of the 2021 draft class.
Okay, so let's play this game. Okay, I'm trying to think. There's 4 starters, plus we can throw Kellen Mond in there.
Sure.
How many of those starters will be starting next season?
So I think Trey Lance will be a starter.
Oh yeah, I forgot him too. So 5 starters. How many will start next season?
I think Trey Lance for the current team, because
For
I think
any
like
team.
for anything, because I feel like Fields will end up. I feel like that makes it more difficult to predict exactly. Because I feel like teams are going to be quarterback needy. Like I think out of the 5, I think I'll say 4. But I think a couple change teams.
Is it 5 or 6? 1, 2, 3, 4. No, it's 6.
All right, it is 6. Yeah. Well then I'll say 5.
Yeah. I mean, I think next season Lawrence, Fields, and Lance are guaranteed to probably start. I'd still say they're going to start for their teams next season.
Well, and the reason why I'm hesitant about Fields is the Bears seemingly hate him. So I think he'll definitely be a starter. Will he be a starter on the Bears?
Hey, 2 straight weeks of good stuff. We're going to get to that in a second. But
yeah. Let's get to it right now. Why don't we? The Bears. Now, Fields did have, again, think about the boneheaded plays. One of the funniest plays I've ever seen of Micah Parsons picks up a loose fumble, is on the ground. Justin Fields is running towards him and jumps over him to not touch him down, which allows Parsons to then pick up the loose ball and run it in for a touchdown. Other than that, though, Fields did play very well. I mean, you're right. Fields has definitely picked it up. I think Fields has looked good for the Chicago Bears. Pass rating of 120 in this one. So Fields, again, hasn't had the best season, but has had a good couple of weeks.
And they're getting him moving. They're getting him on the run and making throws, which I think has helped. So I think he's doing some good stuff the last couple of weeks. I think the offense has looked a lot better. I thought the game planning and play calling has looked better, so I'll give them credit too. I think it's looked better for the Bears offense. The problem is that it just wasn't good enough in this game because another hot take, I think Dallas is an elite team. We talked about that power vacuum. This is probably the second best team in the NFC right now for me. I don't think it's close.
Could you argue are they on the same tier as the Eagles?
Yes. I don't think there's that much of a difference.
Uh-huh.
I think when they get the best version of Dak Prescott, I think it's pretty close. And when Tony Pollard starts too. Ezekiel Elliott getting hurt might be the best thing that happened to this team.
Yeah, you're right.
Like it could end up really like changing the entire season to where they're competing for a Super Bowl. Like,
wow. I don't know if I'd go that. I mean, I don't know if it makes that much of a difference. I think that they're a good team with Elliott as a starter or without him, but I definitely think they're better with Pollard, and he was great in this one. Again, Bears do not defend the run well. That's kind of just the Bears defense definitely. I mean, they didn't give up all 49 points, but they gave up a lot of them. So Dallas definitely looked good though, and this is kind of what we thought could happen with the Dallas Cowboys, right? Is there a team that plays great defense so far, although gave up some points in this one, but still as a whole plays great defense and still even made plays in this one. And also, if they can get their quarterback going, things can go well. They got their really the running game going, but Prescott also made some plays, had a bad interception, but other than that, definitely played well as well.
Yeah, there's also like a roughing the passer call that I think negated an interception too. I thought the defense played pretty well most of the game. Like you said, the Bears got going a little bit, but it was 28-7 before the Bears really started getting going in this game. So, I thought it was a really good game for Dallas. I thought Prescott played really well. And, I was impressed. I think this team's really good.
Interesting. Yeah. No, I think they're very good as well. They're kind of boring, though.
It is. I mean, they play a particular style where they're going to play, a lot of runs and play action passes. They're going to throw, their coverage is really good, so it's hard to throw downfield on them. And their pass rush is really good, so it's hard to throw downfield on them. Mm-hmm. So it creates a very boring and monotonous game, but it's working for them. And still, despite that, they were able to score 49 in this game, too. One of that was a defensive touchdown, but still, that's a pretty good performance, I think. I think this team, Dan Quinn has to get another job this offseason, right? It feels like he has to.
No, we got to stop doing this. Stop hiring good coordinators to be head coaches. Dan Quinn is not a good head coach. He's a great coordinator.
Yeah, but he's going to get a job. How many guys? Who's getting hired at this point over him? He's been the best coordinator in football this year.
Interesting. I mean, I'd have to look at the list. I think I hadn't really thought about it too much, but I don't know. I mean,
either that or we have to start giving Mike McCarthy a lot more credit than we do. So which one? Pick your poison there.
Why? Why do we have to give Mike McCarthy credit for hiring Dan Quinn?
No, I mean, I think they've done a good job with this roster. I think the offensive play calling has been terrific. I think that's the one thing that they did really well with Cooper Rush, and it's continuing with Dak Prescott. I think they're hitting the money with their offensive play calling. I think everything's on time and on target because what they're calling is working, and the way they game script has been fantastic this season. I think they've been one of the best at that this season. I think outside of basically Miami.
Yeah, I like Joe in the chat says give McCarthy no credit, and then for anything. Chat says no credit. I mean, I'm just saying because Dan Quinn, because I'm just saying just because this team is well, I think what Mike McCarthy has done a very good job of is hired good coordinators. That I will agree with. And I do think that this team has been well coached, but I don't know. I'm not saying that like we still know who Mike McCarthy is.
Yeah. Are they in your Super Bowl contenders? Because you seem surprised by that.
Yeah, I mean, I had him as a top 5 team when I did my power rankings last week. So yeah, I guess so. I'm just not like, I don't know. They don't feel like a Super Bowl contender to me. I just think I still have concerns about the fact that they have been so inconsistent in the passing game. They don't have great receivers. CeeDee Lamb's played good, and maybe they don't need that, but it just feels like come postseason time, you need that to be able to win a Super Bowl. Because what do you typically need, right? Top 7 coverage unit, top 7 quarterback play, and top 7 receiving play. You need 2 out of those 3. Right now, I feel like they only have 1 of those 3, with Prescott not quite a top 7 quarterback and the receivers not a top 7 receiving room.
What is this ranked right now? Do you know?
I can check.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think they're starting to put things together. They might be one piece away still, but at the same time, like as we talk about these teams with this power vacuum, with these teams, someone's got to take the NFC spots. I mean, maybe it is just the Eagles buzzsaw through the NFC and go to the Super Bowl, but that typically isn't how the NFL works. Like someone's going to compete with them, and it might be this Dallas team who kind of competed with them head to head without Dak Prescott. So that could be the team that makes the noise there.
Yeah. The Dallas prior to this week, 20th in receiving according to PFF grades.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I think they can definitely be in the conversation. I mean, a lot of it has to do with, I think right now, if I were to rank the NFC teams, I would have Philly, Dallas, San Francisco, Minnesota in that order.
Philly, Dallas, San Francisco, Minnesota. Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Maybe Seattle too.
Okay, it's sure. Yeah, no. I mean, although the Cowboys did lose to the Buccaneers though, so they have that tough loss on their schedule.
Yeah, that's a bad loss at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's tough. Final game to talk about. One, but we kind of figured heading into this week, this would probably be the last game we talk about on the Sunday night show. And also, Kyle, happy Halloween to you now.
Oh, yeah, happy Halloween.
Yeah.
Don't really know what to do that, but cool.
Right. There's Eagles looked good. Steelers did not. Kind of what we figured would happen. I mean, again, another Jalen Hurts game where he has over 10 yards per attempt, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and I think no one's really talking about it. 140 passer rating in this one. Kind of another one of those just, Jalen Hurts games that we've seen him have a few of this season.
I feel like no one wants to give him credit because they're giving all the credit to AJ Brown.
Sure. AJ Brown deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah,
but part of being a quarterback is hitting your superstar receiver too.
Yeah, I mean, he was unbelievable in this game. I mean, he basically won the game in the first half. Mm-hmm. It seemed like there were stretches of this game he was unguardable.
It's that second quarter again. Another dominant second quarter, 14-3. The Eagles outscored the Steelers. Every second quarter, they're putting up double-digit more points than their opponent.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but they keep making it work. So I guess, yeah. So, I mean, Philly's still really good. I didn't really take anything else away from this other than Philly's still dominant. They threw the ball more than they had basically all season in this game, but it seemed like everything they dialed up was working. So, do you have anything else to take away from this Eagles team other than that? They're still really good.
Not really. I mean, yeah, Eagles are awesome. Eagles are 7-0. Eagles are, I would still say, should be the betting favorites to win the Super Bowl at this point. And they play the Texans, and then they play Washington, and they play Indianapolis, and even Green Bay. I mean, they might not have a real test. I mean, again, you have to win those games. It's not just because you're going to be favored doesn't mean you're going to win. But their real test might not be until December when they play Tennessee. And even that's not like I mean, they don't have another, like, I guess other than Dallas, they don't have another like contender on their roster
on their
unless you
schedule.
count the Giants.
Yeah, I do not. Yeah, I mean, maybe they are on an undefeated watch. Maybe we have to give them that credit. So possibly.
You also do have to think, though, kind of the other factor is you think about these undefeated teams. Last year, the Cardinals were the last undefeated team at 8-0. They first out into wild card. They were 1-done in the playoffs. 2 years ago, you had the Steelers who were 11-0, and then they were first out, got blown out in the wild card round. Had the Patriots who were the last undefeated team 3 years ago. They were 1-done. So not to say that the Eagles will also go 1-done, just that a lot can still happen.
Yes. So obviously history is against them. The one thing I will say, like the coverage numbers for like, if you look at that Patriots team and that Cardinals team last year, felt very fluky to start the season. This doesn't feel like fluky coverage numbers.
Right.
Like this just feels like legitimately good players on this team. Is Slay like outperforming his usual expectations? Yeah, by a bit, but he's still a good corner. Is CJ Gardner playing out of his mind right now? Yes, but he's still one of the best slot corners in football. So I think you look through this roster and say, okay, yes, they're probably outperforming a little bit in coverage, but it's not to the point where it's like, is Byron Murphy the best defensive player in football? Like we were talking at the beginning of the year last year. So yeah, I mean, that's why this feels a little more sustainable than those two teams.
Yeah, I think the only question I have is this really Jalen Hurts? Because again, you always have to ask that question when a quarterback takes a big step. Because again, could it be the Kyler Murray thing of Kyler Murray looked like he was elite halfway through last season. Now he looks like he's good, but maybe not on that level.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you too could also look at like, so outside of, they basically have played Kyler Murray and Kirk Cousins. And then the quarterbacks they've played are Kenny Pickett, Cooper Rush, Trevor Lawrence, Carson Wentz, and Jared Goff. And Jared Goff kind of lit them up. So that's also playing a part of the record too.
Absolutely, they have not had to play. And again, we talked about the NFC East. Just those schedules are really easy, which is part of why we're seeing so many great. Why every team is above. Although the downside, it's the opposite of the NFC East, right? Usually it's what at least they get to play each other. Now it's like what I have to play each other.
Yeah, exactly. Still got to face the Giants twice, so they're probably going to lose both of those off something crazy.
Probably, yeah. I don't think anyone will pick the Eagles to win those games. Kyle, that is our show. Let them know who can find us on Twitter before we head out.
We didn't talk about the Steelers at all.
Do we need to?
No, I'm good.
I mentioned that they're not very good at the beginning of it.
Okay, so that's fine. Steelers are very good. Sorry, guys.
There was that one play where Najee Harris could have ran forward and instead tried to do like 17 jukes.
Oh my God, he's a disaster. Like people are saying Trent Richardson.
Yeah, that's not great.
Yeah, that is not great. Anyway, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Grondin. And make sure to follow the account page at On the Sideline JK. That is at On the Sideline JK.
Yeah, Najee Harris and Chase Claypool had passes in this one. Claypool had a touchdown pass. Quarterback controversy?
Their starter's not looking too hot, so I don't know.
He's young. He's got time.
He's like as old as Joe Burrow, isn't he?
Okay, I guess so. Young in NFL years.
I guess so. But yeah, I don't know.
Probably as old as Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's still, I'm pretty sure he's like 19.
It feels like it. Is he the Jason Tatum of the NFL?
I think so, yeah. Well, I know he's younger than Joe Burrow.
He is younger than Joe Burrow.
That was a big thing, was like because he won MVP and Joe Burrow won the Heisman, but Lamar was younger.
I gotta look this up now. How old is Kenny Pickett? He was in college for like 37 years. So
yeah, I think Kenny Pickett. Yeah, I feel like he's already like saving up for retirement.
So he is 24, but they have him. This doesn't have the exact days. But he's wedged
June 6th.
He's wedged between Mac Jones and Lamar Jackson.
Okay, gotcha. So he's older or younger than Lamar Jackson?
He's younger than Lamar, but older than Mac Jones.
Okay, got it. So this is why you stay to the end of these podcasts for things.
And younger than Jalen Hurts.
Oh, there you go.
So
I mean, I would expect him to be younger than Jalen Hurts. I feel like.
I don't know. Jalen Hurts had a long college career too, spanning two teams.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah, maybe trade him. Get a new.
Okay, all right. Well, tough season for the poor Pittsburgh Steelers here. All right. Well, we will be back Wednesday with another pick'em show. If you want to figure out how to get all the games right next week, that's Wednesday. We'll tell you who's going to win every game except for one.
Guaranteed not to miss any games. If you want to bet the house on our picks, do it.
Yeah. I guarantee to miss some games.
Yeah, I guess like you said, for legal purposes, we have to say that's not true.
Right, exactly. Bengals Browns should be fun tomorrow. Of course, if you like audio only podcast, anywhere you get your audio only podcast, this one will be available on the Sideline Podcast. So check that out. Yeah, Kyle, any final thoughts?
Looking forward to Monday night. Looking forward to Week 9. It stinks that Jamar Chase isn't going to be out there, but hopefully he's back soon.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. That was a tough one, but yeah, should be interesting. Again, thanks to everybody. We do appreciate it. And until next time, see you later, alligator.
Peace.